Good evening and welcome to the program on Monday night, Meldon Law Monday. It's already started off to be a weird day today. Things happening, flipping, flopping, whatever. Two gigantic names in sports passed away today. We'll talk about that. And also, for some unknown reason, Florida was a favorite to win its third game Saturday night in the swamp against UCF. Guess what happened? All of a sudden, the line is flipped. Florida has become the underdog. What in the world's up with that? I don't want to talk to Shane Matthews. I can't understand. Something going on in Gainesville. Stand by. The Buddy Martin Show is now on the air.
Buddy Martin, call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening and welcome to the program. I'm Buddy Martin. It's the Buddy Martin Show, brought to you, among others, with our friends from Meldon Law. And what a day it's starting out to be today. As I said in the open, we had some strange things going on. First of all, RIP to two gigantic names in the sports world. Passed today. First, Dikembe Mutumbo, not in my house, remember? And he was only 58 years old, died of brain cancer. And then suddenly tonight, the word out of Las Vegas said Pete Rose, Charlie Hustle, the controversial one, maybe as controversial person as we had in sports, has passed away at 83. Those two things, a bit of a shock. And now tonight, as I'm reading about to go on and posting the promo that said Florida was favored to win his third game, I see that Nick Delatorre has just posted, and I trust Nick, that the line has flipped, and all of a sudden Florida, which was the favorite, is now an underdog. What in the world do you suppose happened? Good evening, Shane Matthews.
Either we got a bunch of people out that nobody's aware of and Vegas knows, or somebody that has Buddy Martin money put a lot of cash on the Knights to flip the line.
Yeah. Could be both. Never know. That's rarely happened like that.
That's a 5-point swing, buddy.
Yeah, that's just huge.
Yeah,
I think there's something going on. You know, the guys in Vegas always seem to find out, don't they?
They do. Because even if somebody put a lot of money on UCF, I don't know if it'd swing 5 points.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, crazy. Speaking of crazy, what a tremendous football game. I didn't get a chance to watch the show today. I wish I had other things going on. What a great football game we had Saturday. One of those games that not only met our expectations, exceeded expectations. The quality of play was remarkable. It's about as stark a contrast as you could have from one half to the other. You think, well, what an unbelievable first half. I mean, Milroe won the Heisman the first half, and we thought Georgia was dead in the water, and they came back and played great football. What happened, Shane, in that game?
Well, Alabama jumped on them quickly, and they had a really good plan. They attacked the edges, which surprising. Georgia couldn't set the edge, and Alabama played a lot of cover zero, blitz, get up in your face defense, and Georgia had trouble with it in the first half, but then they took advantage of it in the second half. So just two, like I said on my show today, that was game one of probably a 3-game series. There's a very good chance those two teams could play in Atlanta again, possibly, and then play a third time in the playoffs. So two excellent football teams, very, very well coached, and just tons of talent. And it was one of the best football games I've ever seen.
I agree with you. It'd be one of my top 10 probably. Just the way the swing and momentum went back, and you got a new coach in Alabama. Boy, he made his bones. That's for sure. In that game, and then to be out of a game like that, rarely do you see a team collapse, be down. What's it, 30-3 at halftime, and come back and go ahead in the game, and then lose it. Props both sides.
Yeah, I mentioned to myself watching it when Georgia took the lead, I'm like, they scored way too fast because they scored in one play.
I said the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. Well, if that's the kind of football we're going to get in the new SEC, I can't wait. That's exciting. I mean, even though you didn't have to even have a team in there to be interesting, that was great football. And I love the quarterback play. I love the aggressiveness. And someone said if Georgia played that way all the time, like they were down by 23 points, they'd be a better football team.
Well, like I said, Alabama played so much man coverage. A lot of times just cover zero, no safeties in back there. They were daring Georgia to throw the ball down the field. And it took them to the second half till they started doing it. And, it was give both teams credit. You hate to see somebody lose, but Bama made the play when it mattered at the end.
A 17-year-old kid, Shane, caught that pass. What a throw it was. Wonderful throw. I mean, Milroe can look like sometimes as good as I've ever seen, And his throws were really, really sharp.
Yeah, he's a decent thrower. I wouldn't say he's a great thrower, but he's got that was a tremendous catch and play by the Williams kid from Mobile, Alabama. Got great ball skills, great body control, and obviously can run.
Sometimes it's not so much the great throw, but the timing of it, how it syncs up. As you know this, getting the ball to the receiver on time is so important where he can catch it, right? It's not just how good he's throwing a spiral. He's got to get the ball to him when he needs the ball. And I love their timing of their passing offense.
Yeah, I mean, they threw a bunch of deep balls, and as I've said, those are easy throws. You just got to call them. Good things happen.
Yeah. Well, what in the world is that? We hadn't even seen. I mean, look, we forgot about Texas and Tennessee. Tennessee's going to have something to say about this before it's over. I'm so impressed with the coaching job there. I think he's done a terrific job. And what about, speaking of coaching, Gus Malzahn must be ready to jump off the Tallahassee Bridge. Oh, my gosh. Auburn just pitiful.
Auburn or UCF?
No, I'm not in me, Malzahn. I mean the coach at Auburn.
Hugh Freeze?
Hugh Freeze, I'm sorry, yeah.
They have a good football team. They just have a bad quarterback play. Their quarterbacks doesn't matter who they put out there, have cost them multiple games this year, and it cost them again. They got a really good defense, and but that's his fault because he didn't address the quarter. He's got the same quarterbacks he had last year.
What's the kid's name? Brant. What's the second team quarterback's name?
Well, they got Hank Brown, I think is his name, and they got Peyton Thorne.
I bet it was. Well, Peyton is sort of all the time to give it up. Just an awful decision. Throw that pick. So anyway, it is what it is, and what it is. Shane, looking at Florida, and we'll do that a lot tonight. See what we got going on here. Are you? I mean, I saw a quote today that was sort of dumbfounded me from the press conference, and Billy Napier says one of the best open weeks he's ever been a part of. Now that's kind of a asinine statement. I know what he means, but how can you have a great open day? I guess when you're losing every weekend, a great open day is when you don't lose. But I don't know what's going on there. I talked to Urban last week, and we talked about it. If you haven't got your left guard problem fixed in the spring, you're not going to have it fixed in October. You got to fix those things a long time ago. Do you get any sense of what's coming out of that camp and what Florida's doing?
No, I mean, as a former player, I hated bye weeks. I mean, you just go through the motions. Now, obviously, maybe they made practice hard and made it competitive. I don't know. All that matters is what you do in your 12 games when you actually put on a real uniform and there's people sitting in the stands. That's all that matters.
The coaching switches somewhat. The coordinator going to the press box, etc. I don't know.
Well, I think they were in the press box the last few games, right?
I didn't know they were in the press box. I think I believe, I'm not sure. I thought the timing was they went this game. I don't know.
No, I know they were both in the press box. Austin Armstrong and Ron Roberts were both in the defensive.
And this week, were they there last week too?
They were in there when we played. I think when we've played A&M and Mississippi State, neither one of them have been on the sidelines.
No one mentioned it. No, so Billy talked about why he moved him up there, why they agreed that he should go up there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they've both been up there. I'm sure your listeners, they pay more attention to that stuff.
Timing is not right. You could be right. I don't know when it actually happened, but I got the impression it hadn't always been that way. Maybe one of our viewers can tell us. They're pretty smart. I got the idea from the quote that he had gone up there just recently, as there was some kind of new. I don't know if that matters or not. It gives the appearance that they don't know what they're doing. I guess that's what most people think. So, all right, let's shift gears. So we'll come back to Gator football. Let's talk about Pete Rose. We don't talk about baseball much. This guy's more than a baseball player. He was. I saw him play a lot of games live. I don't know why one play sticks out to me. We played for the Reds, then the Phillies, and I've forgotten who the catcher was. And the ball was about to come off the screen, and the catcher bobbled the ball, and Rose caught it. It was the epitome of Charlie Hustle, a foul ball. He was there to catch the ball or catch a ball. People forget he was the guy that started sliding, in the second base. That was his pattern of slide, first face first. To have anybody, someone who's nicknamed Charlie Hustle, who epitomized the great work ethic that everybody likes, then to turn out to be a guy associated with gambling. Now, I don't know what happened exactly, but they don't suspend guys from baseball because they bet on a game, just one game. He swears he never bet on his teams. And yet, by the way, his winning percentages was fantastic. In a way, I understand why they had to do it, and I'm glad they policed in the game. On the other hand, what a terrible thing for a guy like that, who is such a great ball player, and such a popular player with so many people represented the work ethic, to have him, who was an all-time hits leader, and MVP 3 times, just represented all the good work ethic things. To have it scarred like his career, I don't know. How do you stand on that, Shane? Do you think he should be in the Hall of Fame?
I do.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
4,256 hits.
Yeah, he definitely deserved to be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh. Do you think he will be?
Yeah, eventually. Now that he's dead, they'll probably put him in, which is unfortunate.
It really is. Guys to die to get in. Yeah. Mutombo's 58, Rose 83. What do you recall about Dikembe Mutumbo?
Well, I remember him when he was at Georgetown, and obviously shot blocker in the NBA. Really good player. I had no idea that he had cancer.
I had heard that once before. I can't remember. I've forgotten it though. Forgot it. Well, anyway, 2 giants like that in one day, amazing. All right, so let's take a quick break, and we're going to get Scott Carter on here to find out what he's reporting from up in Gainesville. And also, I want to remind folks that our program is being brought to you by Meldon Law. Meldon Law, and they have locations to serve you in 4 places right there in Central Florida. The new one over in Williston, of course, Ocala, Gainesville, Lake City. They, of course, do great things for the University of Florida, official law partner of the University of Florida. And Jeffrey is he's King Gator. He sponsors things, goes to all the games, big cheerleader. He wants to play in the band, folks. Get him in the band. Jeffrey Law wants you to know that if you have a case out there that you like to have a second opinion on, call them up and find out. They'll do something to make sure you get attention. Meldon Law, they don't back down, and neither does this guy, Scott Carter. He's such a ferocious competitor. I wouldn't want this guy. Imagine if when he played all 435 pounds of him when he got in that nose tie. Oh, wait a minute, here he is. He's not 430 pounds. He's lighter than me.
Man, you must have a different view here, buddy. I never approached 435 pounds, but I do have a neck for a defensive tackle. Will Muschamp told me, so I guess I got something going for me.
He would know a good neck. That's a Muschamp one. That's a compliment coming from him.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm just like you guys. I just joined on when you guys were talking about Pete Rose. That was kind of a shocker. I was watching the end of the Braves Mets game when that news flashed, and it was kind of a big transition there to go from watching a really big, important baseball game to see that.
I see your shirt. There's a big Tom Petty event coming up pretty soon, isn't there? I'm talking to Jeffrey.
That's right. There is Tom Petty week.
Yeah.
Good call. I forgot about that, but you're right. The Gators announced they're having a Tom Petty Day. It's the second or third one had now. They did it the first time 5 years anniversary of his death, which would have been 2022. So yeah, this is year number 3, and that's part of the festivities on Saturday. And like you guys, I was a Tom Petty fan a long time before Tom Petty Day at the Swamp. But it's a cool tie-in with the Gainesville community, of course.
It is. See, other schools are trying to do the same thing. At Pitbull and Florida Atlantic, is that where he is?
That's right. They named their stadium after Pitbull FAU, right? So I don't know. Maybe I don't see Tom Petty Stadium in the Gators' future, but I haven't seen a lot of things in the future that have happened, guys. So you just never know.
Hey, you could have Steve Spurrier, Shane Matthews, Tom Petty Stadium. How about that? I named all 3.
That's right.
Yeah. By the way, R.I.P. to Chris Christopherson. I don't know how much you know about him, but he was a phenomenal. I mean, have you ever read what he did in his life?
Wow.
Yeah. An actor and obviously a big part of the Highwaymen with Willie Nelson.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of a lot of his music because I like the outlaw country. There's not much of that left anymore, but
one of the 4 original outlaws, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, he's obviously a very talented man, and 88 years old. He had a pretty good life. It sounds like
Army Ranger. Just did so many things, and a Rhodes Scholar.
Now you say
but I don't know anybody else.
Well, I don't know if there are any Rhodes Scholars on this podcast right now. I know I wasn't one. I don't. Maybe you guys were.
Shane.
I didn't try to be.
He didn't have time for that stuff. All right. So I know you don't get into this stuff too much, but it is legal now, so we got to talk about it. But for some reason, and I'm sure you don't deal in the matters of gambling that much, the line has flipped on Florida and UCF.
I did see that this afternoon, guys. Billy was asked about injuries today, and he wasn't given much there. So I'm going to guess that a lot of people expect maybe Eugene Wilson to be out or others. And, I know Billy, just from what he said, he's hoping that they get some guys back. But it's kind of uncertain right now. I was not at practice today, so I don't know, who was out there and who wasn't. But yeah, whenever you see a line flip like that, it is always a little bit of
there. Yeah, for sure. Are you in the Tampa area around Pete Rose and the rest of that down there? By the way, the first time I went to a practice was way before then, but the Reds trained there. And I was 14 or 15 years old. My dad got the sports writer to take me out to practice. And I got to stand and watch the infield There was a guy named Wayne Terwilliger.
Wayne.
He got a foul ball and flipped it over to me. I got a foul ball, he threw it to me. Wayne Terwilliger. Never did much, but I always remember him. And you had, I don't know, Shane, how much baseball you participated in or how many games you saw. But getting back to the point of memories of Pete Rose, Andy remembers the collision game. Remember that, Shane? When he ran into Ray Fosse? It's before your time, but I'm sure, Scott, you remember it.
Yeah, All-Star game.
Scott's about my age, aren't you, Scott?
We are. We're about the same age, actually. But I do remember that game. I don't remember the game, but obviously I've seen it. I've probably even written about it in my baseball days, but it was in the All-Star game, and Ray Fosse was never the same after that. You know,
they changed the rules. They also changed the rules after about colliding with the home catcher.
Yeah, but, that's just the way the guy played. I mean, everybody has an opinion on Pete Rose. And
what's yours?
I mean, just from the baseball standpoint, I mean, there's no question to me that he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. It's sad that he's not. I recently watched I don't know if you guys have seen it. There's a new documentary on HBO called Charlie Hustle, The Matter of Pete Rose. And it's really good. It's about 5 episodes, and it was filmed in 2023. He's all in it behind the scenes with the old teammates and friends and family, and just talking about his life and why it was so important for him to finally get into the Hall of Fame. So, I was watching that with a little bit of sadness because, I mean, you knew he wasn't going to be around much longer. And, he was controversial in a lot of ways. But I think just the baseball part of it, there's no denying that he was. I mean, he's one of those. I was watching an interview with Tom Verducci this afternoon, and he's one of the best baseball writers ever.
Yes.
He was like, there's a certain few mythical American figures in baseball. Babe Ruth, obviously, is the one that comes to mind. Mm-hmm. But Pete Rose is kind of right there because of the Charlie Hustle. And I mean, when you think of Pete Rose, you just think about this guy who's going full speed all moments of the game and through life. And that's what I remember about him. And had a couple interactions with him over the years, and he was always entertaining. I can tell you
that. Andy's very active on here. One of your listeners, Shane, and he's talking about Scott. Are you happy about your beloved Braves?
I am actually. I watched those 2 games this afternoon, and I've always been a big Braves fan. So I grew up in the South in the TBS era. So there's about
like the Braves.
Yeah, there's about 10 million of us out there. So, and this is not, to be honest with you, I wrote these guys off about 3 or 4 times this year with all the injuries they've had. So for them to actually qualify for the playoffs, that's a pretty big accomplishment in my eyes. I don't know how they'll do with some questions around Chris Sale and those guys, but I mean, just getting there is pretty impressive.
Shane, I don't know that we talk that much baseball here, but who is your favorite baseball? Then I remember a shortstop for they played the big leagues, Donnie Kessinger.
Donnie Kessinger, Ole Miss guy.
Yeah, you're Ole Miss.
Yeah, he was one of my guys growing up. But yeah, I actually played shortstop my whole life until I came here, and gave up baseball once I got to college. But Ozzie Smith was my guy. And when you grow up in Mississippi, it's the Braves and the Cardinals.
Yeah.
St. Louis is not far from North Mississippi.
Yeah.
And so, Jack Buck was their broadcaster. So, I was a shortstop, and I loved Ozzie. And I love baseball growing up.
Shane, for me, and not Scott's era, it was our national pastime because the NBA and the NFL weren't much then, believe it or not. When I was a kid, we had Washington Redskins games piped down to us, and we didn't, and I got KMOX. I could have climbed up in a tree and put an antenna up on my dad's radio. I could get KMOX. And guess who the broadcaster, play-by-play guy was?
For the Redskins?
No, play-by-play guy for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Jack Buck.
No, Harry Carey.
Oh, Harry Karras. Yeah.
Oh, before
Harry Carey
Harry Carey or Harry Karras?
No. Harry Carey, before he went to the
Oh.
Cubs, was a St. Louis Cardinals announcer. Yeah. And then listening to him on the
Are we
radio.
talking St. Louis Cardinal football or baseball?
Baseball.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
Baseball. Yeah, he was Harry Carey. I know it's the ancient history. Nobody really cares. But anyway, so, all right, let's get back to some football. Scott, Shane and I were talking about the level of football we saw on Saturday and what that portends for the SEC. My goodness. Shane says one of his all-time favorites. It might have been one of my top 10s I've seen. How did you rank that game?
I mean, it's definitely one of the best college football games I've ever seen. One of the best SEC games I've ever seen. I'm not ready to say it's the best ever just to be a prisoner of the moment. But what I saw out there, and I think I mentioned this to Shane earlier, is that, you look at those two teams and you just see that's what elite teams look like, the talent across the board. And, the Gators have looked like that in the past. But they're not looking like that in the last few years. And that to get where they want to go, those are the two primary roadblocks in their way, Alabama and Georgia. And so that just kind of, for people who are watching that game, and is sometimes they ask this question over and over, well, what's going on with the Gators? Well, it's simple. You've got to have players that look like that at all those positions. And but it was a great game. I was, I didn't really have a rooting interest for it, but I never have trouble sleeping when Georgia loses. So,
yeah. We talked, Shane, remember the conversation we had about breaking the league down into quadrants in preseason?
Yeah.
Certain teams that belong. I think we were trying to decide who the fourth team was. The top, we couldn't figure out if it was going to be Ole Miss or not. I guess not. No Ole Miss up there now. So now if you're doing the quadrants, I can think of the top four, the bottom four, but I'm not sure all of them in between. What does that do to Mississippi? What does it do to Lane Kiffin for his future, Shane?
I mean, did anybody expect them to go undefeated?
I expected to lose to Kentucky.
See, I agree with that. Kentucky had a tremendous game plan and they executed it. And, you look at a football game and there's one or two plays that determine the outcome. Stoops goes for a 4th and 8 from his own 20-something yard line, and they throw a go route and they hit it. And, if they don't complete that pass, at that time, Ole Miss was a 98.9% ESPN predictor to win the game before that play. I don't get caught up. I mean, I never thought Ole Miss was going to go undefeated. I think they're still going to have a heck of a year. I think they're probably the 5th best team in the league, in my opinion, even though they lost. Still a lot of football left to be played.
Who's your top four?
Well, in no order. It's Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, and Texas probably would be my top.
I agree. I'm really impressed with Tennessee. I think Tennessee is going to have say about it, Scott, at some point in time. They're so good offensively and pretty good defensively too, by the way.
They're better defensively than they've ever been.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with what you guys just said. And Tennessee, they figured some things out, I think, with Josh Heupel and, the NIL and, all the stories about their quarterback. It was a big story a couple of years ago when the reports came out. They signed this guy from California for, I think, $8 million. And whether you like it or not, a quarterback like that's going to cost you some money. And he looks every bit where I could see him being a Heisman candidate next year. I mean, he looks like the real deal. So they're doing some things right up there right now. And it's going to be a huge challenge when the Gators go up there in about 12 days, I guess. It's going to be a night game. But yeah, Tennessee, I think they deserve where they are in the rankings. And I'm really looking forward to just seeing how this all plays out, because you look at these rankings right now. I mean, Alabama, jumped up. Texas 1. You've got Tennessee, I think 5. I mean, Georgia's still there. So I mean, it's just it's an amazing league. But this is what makes these seasons so fun. And I'm like Shane, I don't think Ole Miss is out of it by any stretch.
No.
They're still kind of my dark horse team to win it all. I think they can win it all if they get back on track. I just think they had a bad game the other day, and you got to give Kentucky some credit. They made some plays when they had to, but I think that might be Ole Miss's worst game if it goes like it could. We'll look back and that was just a hiccup, but that's a long way to go until we can say that.
I don't think anybody's going to be undefeated coming out of the SEC.
No,
it's going to be hard. I mean, yeah, it's going to be. I mean, if you do, you're going to be number one. That's for sure.
yeah. I looked up in the second quarter. I believe right at the end of the first. I believe it was and Tennessee. I mean, Mississippi didn't have a single yard rushing. Not a single yard. I mean, I know Kentucky's defense is decent, but not that good. I don't know whether Lane lost his way or what. They couldn't run the football like they have to run the football against that team. And
I don't think they had the football a whole lot. That was the key to Kentucky's plan is they played keep away.
Yeah. So, what do you say? Anybody in that middle bunch there it'll be the middle eight. We got eight that we might see jump up out of there and get to the top quadrant.
I mean, you guys still got Missouri, who's undefeated.
Yeah.
I think Arkansas is very good this year. They're really good on offense, but their quarterback has way too many turnovers every game. He has 2 to 3. It cost them again against A&M. A&M's just an okay team. I mean, they only got one loss, but I still think Arkansas is better than they are. Trying to think who else. Oklahoma's got a tremendous defense, but they got bad quarterback play.
Yeah.
Even with the quarterback change, I mean, he's young and he runs around okay, but he's not a great thrower.
So anybody else in that? We'll bring friends. Anybody else in that middle eight there at all? Scott.
I mean, the only one that we didn't mention probably that might have a chance, and I don't know if it's as talented of a roster as LSU usually has, but I'm a big Brian Kelly game day fan. I think he usually does a hell of a job on game day. So, you can never count out LSU in the big game.
Yeah, they're very good on offense.
Yeah, so and it's an offensive game now, so they might win 41-38, but that's still winning. So that's just I never look past LSU. They just always have too much elite talent at the skill positions.
Eating France, and you agree with any of those choices? You want to throw in the middle eight? We've got the top four kind of set and the bottom four set. That middle eight of the SEC.
Well, I wouldn't count Ole Miss out. I think you got 5 teams really at the top there, and I wouldn't count Ole Miss out. Everybody in the league, I think, is going to have a bad game, at least one. Georgia had a bad game against Kentucky. And up there, I mean, that was a game Kentucky should have won up there. Georgia should have 2 losses right now, but they didn't. And if you want to know something about Kentucky, why they're so good, they got a 6'8", 360-pound nose tackle that covers 2 gaps. I mean, he's got the gap on either side of the center, and he handles the center by himself. He's got to be triple teamed, and when he's doing his thing, you do not run the ball up the middle, as Georgia found out, and you got to try to go around the side, around the edges, and Kentucky's got the speed to run you down on the edges. Kentucky's a team that, if their offense is good, they can win games. When their offense is bad, they're going to lose games. They're probably going to be a 7-5, 8-4 team, but they're going to scare the ever-loving hell out of everybody they play. I looked at them the other day, and I'm thinking, Florida's going to have a really, really rough time with these guys when they come to the Swamp, particularly because that daggum nose tackle, he is that good, guys. He really and truly is that good. And, there's a reason why Mel Kiper has this guy ranked right up there, Deion Walker. He's got him ranked, I think, the number 1 prospect as a defensive tackle in the country this year. They're good. Tennessee, the one thing about Josh Heupel is this: he really pushes tempo so well, and the thing you always wonder about with his teams, as we saw when he was at UCF, and we've seen it when he's at Tennessee too, is if you get a team that can slow his tempo down, they're not that good. And how are they going to do when they get in a ball game that they really and truly have to grind it? That's going to be the question with them. Alabama and Georgia, they're going to do really well. I still think Texas is the best team in the league.
Yeah. All right. Let me put this to you while you're all three here. Now you guys got to go. It's getting past time for milk and cookies for Shane. He has to get up tomorrow because he got a big star on the show. He has to get prepped for. The problem. We know we've gone over this. Seems like 1,000 times with the defense. No matter what they do, it doesn't seem to work. And we have a question here, and it's a recurring theme, and we all have different opinions. I want to know: is it the players or is it the coaches? Because they keep changing the defensive coordinators, and nothing seems to work. I know, Shane, you talked about this earlier on about the guy getting pressure on a quarterback, what have you. They don't do that. Don't get any sacks. I don't know. Let me start with Scott. Scott, in your football mind, you know the game. What do you see with that defense? Why they're not more effective?
Well, I'm going to start with what I always harp on. And, I know fans don't want to hear this because it's not something you can fix right away. I mean, the talent level, again, like I said earlier, you look at Georgia and Alabama the other night, Florida doesn't have. I mean, let's just ask this question: If Billy Napier called up Kirby Smart and Kalen DeBoer the other night, hey guys, we're off this week. You can take any of our players in our starting lineup and you can use them in this game. Who are you guys? Who are you guys picking off the Gators to start for either one of those teams on Saturday night? Maybe Trey Wilson.
I don't know if he'd start. I don't know if Trey would start, but he might get on the field. But Jason Marshall Jr. would be that would be my guy on defense.
So yeah, like 2 or 3 where you would hope that they would want like at least half a dozen. So that's just the number one thing. I just think the defensive line it's not going to scare anybody.
No.
And I think there are some things, and Billy's talked about this. Whether it's alignment, miscommunication, technique, fundamentals, those are all coaching terms, right? And it's hard to sometimes those are general terms, and it's hard to really, okay, what does exactly that mean? Well, it means, I know Shane's talked about this, sometimes they'll blitz and they'll be 15 or 20 yards off where the quarterback's going to be. Well, it's hard to get to the quarterback that way. Why is that set up like that? I don't know. I'm not enough of a defensive expert to know. I just know, to me, it looks like there's all kind of things that can be maybe tightened up, and I hope that's what they were working on during the bye week. And but I still think, regardless of what we break down, I just see a deficiency of talent on that side of the ball.
All right, Franz, give me 60 seconds. I'll let Shane wrap it up.
I think Florida has a real deficiency in talent on the front side of the defense. I think Grayson Howard's a really good linebacker. I think he could play for just about anybody in the league and probably start for just about anybody in the league. There may be only a couple of teams he wouldn't start for. But I don't see anybody on that defensive line that would start for any of the top 5 or 6 teams in the SEC. Just don't think that would happen. Is it a question of coaching? I lean toward that because I look at Kentucky. Kentucky's got one stud in the middle on defense, and everybody else is like a 2-star or 3-star recruit. And they're coached up really well, and they hold the good teams down to nothing. They're outstanding defensively. They don't have any offense, but so I agree with Scott about the personnel. Florida's personnel doesn't scare anybody. who would go to the other team. Elijah Badger would start for just. I think Elijah Badger, not as the number one receiver on either one of those teams, but he would start for sure. But
I'm trying to think of the defense. Right, let me get Shane.
Defense, no.
I'll come back to you, Shane. All right, Shane, you've been saying the whole time, all year long, it's the front seven, front seven, front seven, front seven. Are they just not skilled enough? Are they not big enough? Are they not fast enough? They're getting what's happened to the front seven? There's not.
I'm gonna choose all of the above.
Okay.
I mean, my eyes tell me we don't have great players. Are we coached well? I don't know if we are or not. I think it's a combination of both. Scheme, alignment, whatever you want to call it, but we ain't got any dudes. The Jimmies and Joes just ain't there right now. I know some people are going to criticize that, but that's what my eyes tell me. I've said for years, Jason Marshall Jr. will be an NFL player, and he will. I'm not sure about anybody else. I think a couple of them they'll get invited to camps, but I think Jason Marshall Jr. will be an NFL player.
Yeah, out of final thought of what happens on Saturday if UCF happens to win the game. There's one particular listener says if Napier lets UCF come to the swamp and beat us after Deion embarrassed them at home, then Sunbelt should be fired before he even gets to the locker room. That would be very embarrassing. What are the chances of that happening? Let's give me 10 seconds each of it. What's going to happen in that game, France?
If Billy Napier loses, it'll be the last game he coaches at the University of Florida.
All right. Shane?
Well, Franz would know more than I would. I don't really know. Again, I don't know who they make the interim. So let's hope we win the game.
All right, Scott. You get 10 seconds.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the Shane side here, just in terms. I don't know. I've heard everything that's being speculated. If they win, that's big. If they lose, obviously anything's on the table from just the rumor mill right now.
Seems like we've been through this a couple of times before, guys. So we'll see. Hey, great job, Scott. Thank you, Shane. Talk to you in the morning. Who else you got on the show tomorrow?
We're going to talk hoops with the one and the only Chris Harry from FloridaGators.com.
I'll get to listen to that.
Chris, you're getting the real Gators.com writer.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot, Scott. Thank you, Shane.
Take care, guys.
All right. Just want to remind folks, the great Franz Beard is here. He's going to get his thoughts on a couple of things, including Pete Rose and a little bit more Gator football. But first, tell you folks about TitanMRI.com. You hear me talk about it all the time. It's a terrific place to go if you're in North Central Florida. You need an MRI. I highly encourage you, if you want to have a custom-made experience where you get to pick your time, you want to set out an appointment that's not during your working hours, you can call them up. They'll do that. Also, if you don't have insurance, they'll take your cash or card. It's not as heavy as you might think. And of course, then there's the custom experience. We're going to one of those cages you got to get into, MRI that Franz hates to get into like I do. They'll make it so it's not claustrophobic. Check them out, TitanMRI.com. Franz, Pete Rose.
Holds a record that will never be broken, maybe at any level of the minor leagues. 30 triples playing for the Tampa Tarpons. Florida State League. He was, and it was all hustle. I was at the All-Star game in Atlanta in I guess it was 72. They played it at the old launching pad, and we can say what we want to about him. Ego through the roof. Disgusting sometimes to if you ever got around him and he starts telling stories about exploits. Exploits could be kind of obnoxious. But I'll tell you something I saw about him. Kids out there begging for autographs, and there's Pete Rose signing one after another. Now, later in life, he was demanding cash for his autographs. But back when Pete Rose was Pete Rose, not Pete Rose, the manager, but the real Charlie Hustle, the guy that was the guy for the Big Red Machine back when there was such a thing. A fan favorite for a reason. He'd get in there among the fans, and it's almost like he remembered the fact that his dad was like a truck driver or something like that. I forget. I think his dad drove had a milk route or something like that. And his dad would come home and hit the ball to him, play catch with him, pitch to him, do everything. And I don't think he ever forgot the fact that, he had a dad that cared. And some of these kids came out there and, their dads wouldn't do that, but he was a hero, and he grew up in an area. He grew up, not even a middle class guy, but he grew up and he fought for everything he got, and he made it to the top. And at some point in time, the ego took over, and he felt invincible. And I think that's why he's gambling on ball games and thought he could get away with it. Because I think there was a point in time, buddy, and I can't tell you exactly when it happened, but the ego, Pete Rose, the player, forgot about Pete Rose, the guy who came up in Cincinnati with a dad who drove a milk truck. And so, we see that so often with athletes. It's why I look back at the life of Arnold Palmer, the life of the life of Jack Nicklaus, guys like that, who Cal Ripken, another one. Guys who never let the ego get to their head, guys that always remembered where they came from. Arnold Palmer, one of the greatest stories of all time about Arnold Palmer. The Latrobe Brewery that makes Rolling Rock was going bankrupt. And Arnold Palmer's got all his old buddies that he grew up with, whose dads worked there, they worked there, etc., like that. Who comes to the rescue of Rolling Rock and saved it from bankruptcy, saved it from going under? Good old Arnold Palmer never forgot where he came from. And I think, in this era, in this day and time, I miss guys like that. I really miss the guys. And Arnold Palmer was a man's man. Don't let anybody ever fool you just because he played golf, that this wasn't a man's man. You look at those forearms, and Arnold, I'll tell you what, I heard a story about Arnold Palmer in a fight. I didn't know that he ever got in one or two, but somebody told me he got in one or two and said that, he's not the guy you ever wanted to get in a fight with. He defended what he believed in. Jack Nicklaus, as you pointed out last week, a guy that basically got under the wing of Arnold Palmer and Mark McCormick at IMG, and they transformed him. But another guy worth $1 billion has never forgotten where he came from. I know I'm rambling, but I used to use Nicklaus clubs. And I had a 3-iron that threw the club head at a driving range. And I called up the Nicklaus people, and they said, well, you could send it down here to West Palm Beach. And I said, well, I'll be down there next week. They said, bring all your clubs. They reshafted every one of my clubs for free. I mean, and I said, you guys didn't have to do that. And they said, the boss wouldn't have it any other way. And you know who the boss was. Jack. That was Jack. We need guys like that still in sports, and we don't have enough of them, I'm afraid. And it bothers me. It
All right,
really bothers me.
let's get to a couple of the points before we get off here. One is I want to get to Dikembe. I don't want to spend a lot of time on Dikembe, but of course, we know his story. I was privileged to be able to watch that series where they beat Seattle in the first round. I believe '94. I was in Denver at that time, he was such a popular player in Denver. Not in my house. I didn't realize. I guess I had heard he had brain cancer, but didn't realize it was that bad. Just give me your brief thoughts about Dikembe and what he meant to basketball.
Heart of gold, picked, would get guys to donate their shoes. Some of these guys, we forget, some of these guys in the NBA have contracts and they get a new pair of shoes every game. But you get guys to donate their old shoes and send them back to Zaire, where he was from. Heart of gold, guy that really and truly was a real humanitarian. Great basketball player, obviously. I actually, if you'd give me the choice, he played with Patrick Ewing at Georgetown Alonzo Mourning at Georgetown. And if you give me the choice between the two, I would have taken Dikembe every single time. But great teammate, loved by his teammates, stuff like that. And let's put it this way, this became he'd reject somebody and he'd give him that's his idea of giving him the finger. And I love that part of him. He was he was a great defensive basketball player, but a great human being and a great humanitarian.
Closest thing to Bill Russell you've seen in our life. He was amazing. All right, friends, they're asking you to give them some red meat on Gators football and coaches. You got about 2 minutes here. Give them some red meat.
Florida, the point spread has flipped from Florida 1 point favorite to a 2.5 point home dog. Not a good sign. The gamblers.
What do you suppose that means?
That means that they expect that maybe there's some players that are going to be missing or whatever like that, or maybe they just think that Florida players know the pressures on them and they're not going to respond. This is a game. I don't know, buddy. I really don't know if this is anything more than just plug it in and give you another week. And I think that he's on, I hate to say it, but I think he's on week to week. I like Billy Napier personally. I really do like Billy Napier.
Funny how everybody says the same thing. They start out with that same thing. We all say the same thing. We wish him the best. We like him, but
he hasn't gotten it done.
He's done nothing. He's done nothing to enhance his coaching career in Florida.
The problem is, but
joke.
Here's the problem. We were losing ball games 39-33 in year one. We were losing games 39-36 in year two. This year, we're losing ball games that we're not even close to playing in. Now, you expect that when we play Georgia because, as Shane has pointed out, and as Scott did too, the personnel differences are just, they're obvious, Those guys play with grown men and we're playing with big boys. Sad but true. I think Florida's going to score a lot of points against UCF. I don't know if the defense can stop UCF. And that's what troubles me. And this is what troubles me about
Deion's defense good, apparently.
This is what troubles me about the Napier era. Is this will be the 30th game. And how many outstanding defensive games have the Gators played out of those 30? 4 games, 5 games? Tennessee last year was a great game. They played a great defensive game year one against Tennessee, but it was the offense. Anthony Richardson personally blew that ball game. Hate to say it, but it's true. 3 games, 4 games maybe that the defense has actually played well. Your defense is, if you're going to be the head coach at the University of Florida, you have got to have a team that hits on all of its cylinders by year 3. And this team doesn't. And what does that tell you? That tells you that personnel, okay, yeah, that's a problem. Coaching, yeah, that's a problem. Mix the two together, and you've got 2 problems equal a greater problem. I mean, 1 and 1 equals 2, buddy. Any way you look at it. So the red meat of it is this. Mm-hmm. If the defense shows up and plays, Florida will win this game. But what will that do? That will buy another week at the most. And I don't know if Ace is trying. I tried to get Billy today. I said,
I heard your question.
Yeah. Did you have a chance? Do you feel like your team got healthier? And would have been an easy answer. Yeah, we had a lot of guys banged up and we're healthier this week. A simple answer.
We'll see, he said.
But he didn't give us a simple answer. He gave us a runaround.
It's called convoluted answer, and it's there on purpose.
Yeah.
To hide something.
You've heard me say this before, and I'll say it once again, buddy. You ask him a question, and he will say more words that mean less than any coach in the SEC.
First of all, he says, here's the thing. He starts out his answers are yes, no.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that say? You answer every question yes, no? Is that like, let me confuse you here or what?
I was buying a house in Costa Rica 24 years ago, and I had a real estate agent there who would ask a question, and every time he'd ask you a question, and he'd say, do you like this house? Yes, no, maybe. Every time he'd ask a question, those were his answers. Yes, no, maybe. And you get that feeling with Billy that, as you point out, yes, no, maybe. He said, you know what? I was thinking about this driving home from the Heavener Center today. You know who he reminds me of when he answers questions? Old Yeller. Who did he coach for at Colorado State one year? Old Yeller. I mean, he worked for Old Yeller at Alabama when he was the offensive coordinator there. He worked for him at Colorado State a year. Jim McElwain, you could ask a question and he'd give you anything but the answer. He'd start talking about it.
My dog could play quarterback. That would be a great.
Yeah, well, that exactly.
Here's the final question for you. Answer Toby's question. We'll call it a night.
Okay, has Florida scored over 50 points against a Power 4 opponent under Napier? And the answer to that is no, we haven't. I don't know that we've scored. Well, we scored 42 against Mississippi State, but that was Mississippi State. And we scored 42 against LSU, got beat 49-42. Those are the games that we've really lit it up. But no, and the answer is that. And folks, I got to tell you, the answer is the defense. The offense is not the problem. It really and truly is not the problem. I ran the numbers last week, and you can look at them. They're there, and the offensive numbers are good. Plus, if the defense just gave them the ball a couple more times a game in all these bad games they've had consecutively, they might have, they'd be talking 35, 36 points a game on the average, averaging 450, 500 yards a game. It's not the offense. It really and truly isn't the offense. I know people talk about, they say, well, he's too predictable with his play calling. Well, you may think so, but guess what? They averaged 6-something yards a play. They lit up Tennessee 2 years ago up in Knoxville, if you remember. That was a game they should have won. They had the ball in the last play of the game and a wide open receiver, and Anthony Richardson completed a pass to the other team with a guy standing in the end zone saying, "Throw it to me."
All right, Francis, I'll see you Saturday night in the Swamp watching UCF, the mighty USF against the mighty Gators.
Yes, indeed. In the and UCF Super Bowl, and that's the only way to describe it. That it is their Super Bowl, and they're gonna if they win this game, there will not be a sober person in East Orlando for probably a week afterward.
All right, that's what he wrote today, folks. Read the great Franz Beard on Gator Bait. Check it out. We have some interesting articles in there. Francis got a bunch of them. And we'll see you back here on Thursday night with Orange Blue Blitz. Thank you, Francis.
Thanks a bunch.
All right. Smash that subscribe button, folks. And let's see if you can get subscribed to Gator Bait and also to this program, the Buddy Martin Show. Thanks to all you new listeners. We appreciate it. A lot of folks listening this past couple of weeks. I hope we have more news for you. I want to tell you some news now didn't know about. It's a group of people who are doing an exceptional thing in my hometown of Ocala. And I'm in broadcasting tonight from here, having come here as a refuge from the storm, a refugee from the storm. It looks like we got another one cooking out there right now. So anyway, the folks over at Brinstar Medical Research are diligently looking after our health. And how they do that is you have these clinical trials where people come in this area, they go through a testing of whatever the product happens to be. It could be as simple as something for pill for allergies, or it could be something cream, could be anything. They run these clinical trials. They've done over 800 of them, and they get data which they can now send off to these companies, who then can get talent, can tailor make their particular prescriptions for us here in this area. So if you're interested in helping yourself, helping WinStar, helping me, go to winstar.net, check out these clinical trials, and sign up for them if you're eligible. And you get picked, you could make money, compensation for time and travel. And you might be given some investigational medicine that only you can get through them. So I encourage you, our good friends over there at Winstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Thank you for listening and watching to the show tonight. Back tomorrow night, Lauren Meadows will be here. Lots more to come on the Gators and what's going to happen. The UCF, they're now underdogs to the UCF Knights. You believe it? Good night, folks.